our own view on timing analysis of digital network. So with this introduction, let's start. Yeah, I believe most of these students would have completed DLD, digital logic circuits. So keeping that as the base, I would like to go with this timing analysis. Could you all see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Oh,
sir.
thank you.
We are
Thank you.
able to see it, sir.
Yeah. So basically, say like if you are planning to get a mobile, the first thing which you look for is the processor. So in this processor, you look for RAM size, all this, what sort of processor, which company brand it belong to. And one more important thing which you look for is the speed at which the processor run. Say, let me assume that this processor run at 2 gigahertz, right, or 4 gigahertz. So now immediately you come to a conclusion. Okay, if I have a processor with the 2 gigahertz and there is one more processor with 4 gigahertz, I blindly go ahead with 4 gigahertz for the simple reason, or any basic or even any person who is using mobile phone will normally switch over or prefer a higher gigahertz frequency of operation. His intention is, yes, if I have high frequency of operation, that gives me high speed of operation, high bandwidth, high clarity, and the ease at which multitasking can be done. So generally, if you ask even a non-technical people, if you ask what is the processor speed which you like to have, they in turn wish to have the highest possible frequency rate that the processor could run. Now, the question is, how do a designer decide this frequency, or on what parameter this frequency of operation depends upon? Or in general, any semiconductor company who is in the field of making digital processes, or for this it could be any digital circuits, how are they deciding the speed of that particular circuit? On what parameters this speed has been measured? What are the ways by which you can increase the speed? This is what mainly we are going to look at. So first of all, we would like to see what is the speed, or how do you come to a conclusion that this particular architecture works with this particular speed. Second, we would like to look in how to improve the speed or increase the speed, right? Is there any mechanism available by which you can increase the speed? Third, how to measure the speed, right? How to measure the speed of that particular architecture. So with this intention, we would like to introspect on this speed parameter or the timing parameter of the given network. Yes. Okay. So with this brief introduction, let's see something like this. Say I have a circuit. Let's take a typically known circuit, a full adder. Right? This is a very basic digital circuit which you would have come across. Now, let me take this full adder. The inputs will be A, B, C in. So these are my three inputs. The output will be sum, carry, right? So probably if you would have done a digital course, you would have written a Verilog code for this in the gate level or the function level. You would have written, you would have given some input for A, B, C, and you would have verified the sum and the carry. Now, beyond that, I don't know how many people went for making the timing analysis for this circuit. If not, let's try to look into further more detail of this particular part. Okay. Now my condition is something like this. I have a series of input for A, series of input for B, and again a series of input for C. Typically, at the other end, for every set of input which I feed in, I will be getting a set of sum and carry. Now, it is not a discrete value. Of course, it's a discrete value, but what I mean to say is, it's not a single value which I am feeding in. I am going to feed in a continuous value for A, B, and C in. My intention is to feed this A, B, C, right, one by one for this particular full ladder and get my output sum and carry for the first set of input, second set of input, third set of input. This is what I want to do. Now, the immediate question which comes in, say, let me assume this is my first set of input, this A, B, C. So I am feeding into this full ladder. It gives me the first set of output, sum and carry. The next idea, what I think, okay, I am going to feed in the second set of input. So if my intention is coming up with the second set of input, then let me keep this input to be A1, B1, C in 1. Let me keep it like this. So this could be the second set of input. Now the third set of input, let it be something like A2, B2, C in 2. The same case will happen here too. You will be having sum 1, carry 1 for the second set of input, then sum 2, carry 2 for the third set of input. So this is for the first set of input. Now the question is, under which time interval I am supposed to feed in the second data after I fed the first data? Means what I mean to say is, what should be the time delay between two subsequent input which I am feeding into the adder? How do I find out that? Or you could also keep it in this way. Can I give the data one by one as this? Or should I need to give the first set of data, wait for some time, give the second set of data, and wait for some time, and feed the third set of data? It is typically similar to the scenario where you go for queuing up anywhere in the ration or a cinema theater, things like that. You will not be allowed to push everyone at the same moment to the counter. So you have a serial feeding mechanism by which the process runs smoothly. So I am also expecting that. Means I am giving a first set of input, I wait for some time and feeding in the second input. Now the question is, what is this waiting time? Who will decide this waiting time? Or in case if I want to decide that, on what parameters should I decide this waiting time? Now it becomes very clear. The time by which I need to wait, it is nothing but the time taken for the first set of data getting inside this circuit, get computed over here and entering into the sum and the carry term. Typically what I say is, let me assume this full adder consumes some 10 nanoseconds. By 10 nanosecond, what do I mean is simply the propagation delay that goes through these gates available from input to the output. Say for example, if it is a full ladder, sum is expected to have 3 XOR gate, A XOR B XOR C XOR, right? So 3 XOR gate I am expecting to have. So what I meant to say is, the time through this 3 XOR gate is 10 nanoseconds. So what I want is, if I feed in the first data, I will be waiting for 10 nanosecond and feed the second data. I will be waiting for the another 10 nanosecond to feed the third data, third data for my adder. Now, how do I synchronize this now? I cannot wait. I want some mechanism to do this. So I just come up with still more sophisticated mechanism. What I try to do, let me have this full adder circuit. This is full adder circuit. On either side of my full adder, let me put a register. Let me keep this register as R1, R2. Could you all follow me? Can I get some response? Are you in line?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Right. So I'm just putting up two registers. These registers are basically a D flip-flop. They have been connected by a common clock. Now I am just feeding my input to these registers like A, B, C, N. Now via this D flip-flop or a set of D flip-flop, it has been given to a full adder. This is again being taken out, so only two output. Where two, it's a bunch of flip-flop. You can keep it like that, right? So here you have sum, you have carry. That's all. Simple idea. Now look at this. I'm going to do. These two flip-flops are a bunch of flip-flops, array of flip-flops are being connected by a common clock. So what I try to do, let's assume that they are positive edge triggered flip-flop. So if I'm having a positive edge triggered flip-flop, what does this mean? While my clock moves from 0 to 1 at the passage of the clock, right? What happens here is the set of inputs A, B, C in, which is on my input side, will be captured and fed to this full adder. Point is clear? So after being fed to the full adder will compute everything and it will be available in the input terminal of this R2 flip-flop. Now, I am waiting for some time. The next passage of the clock comes. So what is going to happen by the time? You know, for any D flip-flop, D is my input, Q is my output, clock. Passage of the clock or the neck edge of the clock, let's try to keep it as a passage of the clock. The idea by which a passage of the clock works or positive edge trigger flip-flop works is whenever my clock moves from 0 to 1, it immediately captures this D value and feed it to the Q. And it will retain the last value, that is this value which has been taken at that moment, till the next passage of the clock. What do I mean is, though this D input has been connected to this D flip-flop, only at the passage of the clock, which you are fed to this D flip-flop, only at this time instant, it will copy the D value to Q. So for every passage of the clock, say let me keep it like this. This is my clock. So every passage of the clock in this instant, whatever value available in D will be copied to Q. Now the idea is very clear to me. In the first, let me keep this as first passage of the clock. In the first passage of the clock, what is happening? This set of value will be copied and fed to the full adder. All this will get computed and it will come and stay here. Okay. Now, next, for the second second rise edge, I can feed in A1, B1, C in 1. The next value. Now what is going to happen? For the second set of value will be copied, or I am feeding in this value at the time of the second rise edge. So what will happen now? This second set of value will be copied to the flip-flop, will be copied via the flip-flop to this full adder by the time this value which has been computed will be pushed out as sum and carry. So what I mean to say, for every subsequent rise edge of the clock, you could see a new set of data enters in the flip-flop and the computed data moves out of this flip-flop. Or it's like a pipelining mechanism. You serially feed one by one the data to my network. My network will completely compute that and then send it out. Now, only question is still the answer for the first question which we raised is unanswered. That is, what is this time which I need to keep it? Now, one question I have answered, how should I make this process automatic? How did I make it automatic? I just put two registers on both the end, connect them via common clock. For every passage of the clock, it's like a gate watchman. It is sending first set of data. Once this get computed, it is sending the second set of data, then third set of data. This process will keep on continuing. You have some n set of data which need to be processed in this particular full adder. So this will keep on moving around. But the still question which is not being answered is, what is this? What is this timing? How do you decide this timing? Okay, let's try to answer that question. Okay, so finally we evolved something like this. You have one full adder, both the end, you have a set of registers. They are being clocked by a common clock. So this is my common clock, and these are my input A, B, C in, and they are being fed to the full adder, and that has been taken to sum and carry. Clear? Right? So these are register 1 and register 2. Now the question we raised is, what is the time period T? To answer this question, let's find out again one simple method. Let's take this full adder. As I said, you have 3 A, B, C, sum and carry. But remember, the delay from signal A to the sum, the delay from signal A to the carry, similarly, the delay from signal B to sum, B to carry, C to sum, C to carry will be different. Do you agree with me? Because, say for example, this is not, yes, this is C. Say for example, if you take a sum is A XOR B XOR C. But what about carry? A dot B plus B dot C plus C dot A. You have different gates being connected from sum to A and sum to B, carry to A, carry to B. To make it still more simple, what I mean to say is, if you are having a set of input and you have a set of output, your design can have multiple paths where each path can have different time delay. Still, let me subsidize this in a very simple way. This is input, this is output. So between this input and output, I can have multiple paths where the path may have different time delay. Say, let me keep this to be 10 nanosecond, this to be 12 nanosecond, this to be some 15 nanosecond. Now the question is, it is something like this. Out of this possible delay, which should be considered? Or which one I should say that the time delay from my input to output is this value? How do I figure out? Should I need to take 10 because it is very less? Should I need to take 12 or should I need to take 15? This condition is typically same as, say, you plan for an some sort of excursion. So you would have planned for 6 o'clock. Some would have reaching that spot, the point where you take off. Some would come by 5:30, some would come by 5:40, right? Some would come by 6. Sometimes some may come at 6:10. But you will never take that bus, right? Until unless everyone arrives. Means you wait for the worst signal. The scenario is same. The signal which comes from input to output, of course you have multiple paths. This path have different delay, but I will consider the worst case. Why worst case? Because if I consider the worst case, automatically this best case will be taken care. So otherwise you take it in this way. You plan for a tour at 6 o'clock and some people came at 5:30. Okay, 5:30 all would came, so let's start moving on. If you start, the other fellows will curse you. So what you do, you wait for the worst case scenario. Something like on the way they would have got punctured, they would have got delayed. So you are looking for the worst case scenario, which means this 15 nanosecond. If I wait for this 15 nanosecond, even if the signal comes a little bit early, there is nothing lost, means the signal need to wait for some time. That's all. Whereas on the other way, if I am considering this 10 nanosecond as my timing, if my signal comes at 12 and 15 nanosecond, these two will get lost. This information will get lost. So in deciding the time period, I should always consider the worst case. Worst case. This worst case is nothing but the path which has the maximum computation. Maximum computation. What do you understand by this? Say this comes early, means the computation in the path is only less. Let me to make it clear, it might have 2 XOR gate, but this might have 3 XOR gate. This path might have 3 XOR gate. So naturally the path will have higher delay because you have higher number of gate delay in that. So this path which has the maximum computation, this path is called as critical path. Critical path. So from A to B, though there are multiple, or from input to output, though there are multiple paths, I am considering this worst case scenario which gives me the maximum computation path delay. So now I have fixed that there cannot be more than this 15 nanosecond. That's it. Now the answer is ready. What I'm trying to do, you have kept 2 registers on both the side. You have clocked them via clock, a clock signal, synchronized via clock signal. Now it's very simple. You feed the input to this full adder after every 15 nanosecond. That's simple. So what do you understand from that? After every 15 nanosecond, a new set of data coming in and moving out. So there won't be any problem of data collapse. What do I mean by data collapse? Say, let me keep this as 10. If I am feeding in the next data for every 10 nanosecond, what will happen? Say, unfortunately, that signal has taken this path, let me assume. So that data would be in the mid of the computation. At the 10 nanosecond, you are feeding in the next data. So it's like data collapse will take place. A wrong data might be sampled and a wrong data may be computed. It's like a Tirupati Darshan. If you go, they won't send you all at a time. That lead to a heavy, heavy data data collapse here. That will lead to human collapse there. So what they do? They put you in different cell, subsequently feed one by one, so that there will not be any clashes. The same concept we are following in the digital network or for any digital cycles. So this timing, 15 nanosecond of my clock is nothing but the time taken for the critical path. So once you decide this critical path, then you can immediately say the T, whatever the critical path timing is there, frequency is 1 by T. Or if I mean to say my processor works with, right, 2 gigahertz, what I actually mean is technically my critical path a time period T which is equal to 1 by 2 gigahertz. Or the time period T is 1 by 2 gigahertz. Are you following me? So very simple. Any time period T for the clock which I feed in is nothing but the time of maximum computation time required for a signal to be computed from my input to output. This mechanism of arranging the architecture, I call it as RTL. What does this mean? Register, transfer, logics. Which is the register? This is one register, this is another register. For every clock cycle, you are trying to shift the value from reg to reg. That's what people used to say. So you are transferring the data for every clock period, right? From data, new set of data will be copied from here. After computation, which was available here, this will be copied to the next. So all flip-flop are the registers. Registers are nothing but a set of flip-flop, right? So which transfer the value from register to register for every clock cycle. Or while you write a code in Verilog, finally at the end, they will say the RTL logic for your Verilog code will boil down to something like this. Say it could be a full adder or it could be some sort of processor, whatever it may be, right? And this is how the frequency calculation is being done for any processor design. It could be a normal processor, it could be a mobile processor, it could be a DSP processor or some accelerator, whatever it may be. So this timing analysis or this timing is being done only for that. Next. Up to this, any queries? Okay. Okay, right. Now we know that this is my logic. This is basically a combination logic. As I said, A combination logic are the circuits which doesn't have any memory. Means whatever there in my input, that will get computed. Say for example, code converter, adder, subtractor, multiplier, right? All this mux, demux, decoder, encoder, all this, right? Where the output is being decided only with respect to the present input. They are my combination logic, right? Okay. So on both the end, you have kept a register, and they have been clocked by a common clock, and we know what should be the value of t, and you have a set of input, you have a set of output. That's it. Now there is still more something to be added. Let's see what is that. When I say the timing between two subsequent data that need to be fed in, it is not just this combo logic alone. Or what do I mean is, say if it is a full adder, for a rough estimate, we have considered, okay, minimum it should be the timing of this particular combination logic, which means the timing delay of this critical path. Okay. Now, to be still more very precisely calculating the timing t, it is not just this combinational logic delay alone. Let me keep this as TCL. That is timing taken for this combination logic. By that, what do I mean is the time for a signal from the input port of this adder to this output port of this adder. Say from A to sum. Let me keep it in that way. But the next thing is, what happened to this delay? That is, at the instant my clock moves from 0 to 1, then alone the data get copied from D to Q. So what happened to this delay? Remember, in a digital network, a fraction of femtosecond can cause a serious damage to the network. Means it could cause a timing violation in your network or a digital IC. Once the timing violation is not being sorted out, it leads to a faulty result. So in the aspect of functionality checking or testing of any digital network, timing becomes much more important. At the outset, you may think that, oh, a fraction of femtosecond, what is it going to do? But remember, even a fraction of femtosecond could lead to a collateral damage, because within that fraction of second, you could see a wrong data get sampled up. And one more thing, remember, the speed under which an electronic circuit works nowadays is greater than the speed of the human brain. You won't believe it, right? The timing taken for a signal to travel via biological neuron and an electronic circuits, the speed at which electron move, if you compare these two, right, the speed of electron is higher. The speed under which an electronic circuit works is typically higher than a biological neuron works. So the days are not far where you could see the robots could immediately make some sort of decision making far better than the human being. It's already there, but still, what I meant to say is, I'm just projecting that. What I mean to say is, such a high-speed network. So, in case if there exists a faulty value to be sampled in the in that. So you could see the complete network will give me a faulty result. So at the outset, though it looks like a very fraction of femto or even more than that, it gives me an impression it's very, very small timing. But with respect to digital circuits, these are very precisely calculated based upon even a fraction of femtosecond. Yes, coming back. So that's the reason what I'm saying is, what happened to this time we didn't consider, right? So what I mean to say is, now this time also need to be considered. This time, let me keep it as T C to Q. What do you understand from this? The time taken for a signal to travel from my clock to Q. Any D flip-flop or register will have a value Q. So at the right edge of the clock, at that instant, to this Q. Again, remember this black box, which I have kept, which I name it as a register. In turn, it too has what? A gates. NAND gate and NOR gate is being used for constructing basically all your flip-flops. Either it is a D flip-flop or even whatever flip-flop it may be. It has been constructed by the universal gates. So what does that mean is, it is also going to have some sort of delay from T to Q. So this also need to be taken into account apart from this combo logic delay. So now I understand T is not only the combo logic delay, means adder, full adder, half adder, or whatever you have. Not only that, it also involves T C to Q. What is this T C to Q? The timing taken for my input to move from clock to Q. This I call it as capture. You are capturing the D value to Q. D value to Q. Okay, is that enough? No. To keep my timing still more precise, there is one more concept. What do you call it as? Setup time and hold time. These are actually a real big concepts. Maybe the students, BTech students who are reading it, it actually comes as STA, right? The people who are really working on with the timing analysis, the company, this course, this STA analysis, if you take this as a course, this itself is a separate subject. But the content for that is typically what I say here. I try to squeeze it to the maximum whereby you could understand without losing the essence of that subject. I am trying to bring in to make you understand what exactly the timing analysis will. I have a railway track outside my building, so quite often I used to have this. Okay, let's see what is this setup time and hold time. If you could understand this, I think there is nothing big point to be discussed with respect to the timing analysis. Let's take this. Say I am taking a flip-flop. This is D, this is Q. Of course, Q bar is quite obvious. We are not going to take. This is my clock. Of course, reset, clear, preset, all those things are there. But that's not my point of interest. Now let's see. This is my clock. Okay, fine. Now, remember, a D flip-flop is a 1, or any flip-flop basically. A flip-flop is a 1. Say, let me keep D is this data. And clock is this data. clock is this one. Let me keep this as a clock. What do I mean to say here is, the way in which this D flip-flop works is, for every rise edge of the clock, it tries to see what is there in D, that is D terminal. So immediately it will copy this value to Q. So irrespective of whatever may be the earlier value, this value is 1, so it will simply give 1. How long? Till once it has sampled here, then it will never mind about whatever changes that is happening in the D. That will not affect the data Q. Up to what point? Up to the next passage, it tries to see what is there in D. Now the D value is 0. Immediately it goes down. It keeps on holding that 0 till what? Till the next rise edge of the clock comes in. Got it? Say if this value is 1, then immediately it goes to 1. So this Q is typically like this. For every rise edge of the clock, it see what is there in D, that will be copied to Q, and for the remaining period, it simply retain that value till the next subsequent rise edge of the clock. Is the point clear? Yes. So now I understand, if my data is available at this point, it will try to sample exactly this value and feed it. This is something very similar to the scenario. Say you have a train at, let me keep at 3 p.m. So definitely, what will you do? You know that the train will not wait for you until unless you are some ministers or someone with a high profile. The train will never wait for you. So even if you get delayed by 3.02, you will miss the train, or you will not get into the train. So definitely what you will do, to catch the train at 3, you at least make sure that you are there at 2:50. You pretty well know that this 10 minutes extra is to make yourself settled there and be ready for the train to be catched up. Right? Assuming that, let's assume that all the Indian Railway train comes at exactly at the right time. Right? That's a default assumption we made here, though it's not true. So exactly if you are waiting for 3 p.m. So, but you are expected to be there at 2:50. This 10 minutes buffer time is something what you call it as a setup time. You go there, set yourself comfortable, you wait there, see the compartment, floor, which platform, which is your coach position, everything. So set everything right, you are being there, and you will be stable at that point. And definitely for sure, you will not come after 3 p.m. Right? Which means you would expect that you may miss the train. The same thing is happening here. The clock is like a train. This clock will never mind who is there, who is not there, nothing. At passage of the clock, whoever there, it will simply pull that fellow and put it over here. So if the D value is 1, it will copy that 1 and put it over here. The D value is 0, it will copy that 0 and put it over here. You cannot go and say, oh, no, my data is not 0, my data is yet to come, it is supposed to be 1. No, nothing. Which means, if you have not fed in the right data, it will sample a wrong data by the time and feed it to Q. So definitely I make sure one thing to be very clear. If I want the right data to be sampled, I make sure the data available in D to be available earlier. It is like this. So this is my data. Let me consider this to be my clock, passage of the clock. I just make sure this one to be available before the rise edge of the clock, right? A stable value. Why stable value? If my input turbulates, like let the T, it's having some sort of turbulence, then what would happen? At exactly this rise edge, this value may be sampled, 0 may be sampled. You might be thinking that your data value is 1, but it would have sampled the wrong value. So you make a stable D value and feed it to this D signal or the D terminal before the rise edge of the clock by some amount of time. This time is called as setup time. Setup time. Or what I mean to say is, this fellow clock will never wait for anyone. So I am expected to be a little bit early. That is, a stable data should be available before the rise edge of the clock. The time by which it is expected to be there before the rise edge of the clock, that time is called as the setup time. We know pretty well this setup time is not going to add up to any of the functionality. It's actually waste only. You are supposed to be there ideal only, but that is much more required in order to ensure the reliability of operation of that particular network. That's what it is setup time. But at the same time, say if you have a train at 3 p.m., you should not go and sleep in the platform morning 8 o'clock. It's actually utter waste. You are pulling the speed. The same thing happens here too. Right? So this setup time should be small, but at the same time sufficient enough so as to stabilize your D value before the rise edge of the clock. So now you understood what you mean by setup time with respect to flip-flop. The next thing is hold time. Now you know what do you mean by setup time. So setup time is time before which the rise edge of the clock, in which the data need to be stable in its input terminal. What is the hold time? Hold time is something like this. Let's assume that you go to to send off one of your friend. So let me assume the same case. The train is at 3 p.m. You go with him and you enter the platform. You be there, the train come at 3. But immediately after going there, you will never put him there and you never turn back and move your home. At least for a courtesy sake, if it is your friend, definitely you will wait till he catch up the train and the train moves out of the platform. So you wait there for at least some 5 minutes, beyond which the train has started and it has moved out of the platform. Then you come back. This is typically the same scenario. This data is being stable before the rise edge of the clock with an intention that this stable value need to be sampled at this rise edge. Because anything after this instant of time will never be sampled. That's the reason. So you need to make sure at this particular point, it is very, very, very stable. So what you do, even after the rise edge of the clock, you make sure that the data is available there for some time till after the rise edge of the clock, for some time the data is stable here. This time, the time by which my data is available stable after the rise edge of the clock, this is called hold time. hold time. So before the rise edge of the clock, it is setup time. After the rise edge of the clock, it is hold time. This is again one such problem. Now let's consider the worst case. See, you went for boarding your friend, and that your friend has boarded a train and he left. You should not open your pillow and sleep there in the platform. What would happen? It would be a disturbance for the new set of people who are coming there. The same idea. You need to be, this data need to be there after some time of the rise edge of the clock, but this should not again be too much. If it is too much, what happened? It will block the new set of data coming in. Or otherwise, if it is waiting till the next, it is like this. Let's assume like that. You went, you sent off your friend, and you slept in the platform. By the time second train comes, the next train comes, the people, new set of people would come there to send the people, send off their own friends or relatives. By the time they should use that platform, but you have already occupied. So what would happen? There is a data collapse. The same thing happening here. You are expected to be there after a few seconds after the rise edge of the clock, but at the same time, there is a time limit by which you can be there. Say, as I said, it is 5 minutes for the platform. You can be there for a couple of seconds. Meanwhile, before the new set of data comes in, before that, you need to vacate the place. Right? So, if any violation takes place in the setup or hold, then definitely that leads to the problem of timing violation. Now you understand? For a flip-flop, what do you mean by setup time? What do you mean by hold time? How this is very important for capturing a data and sending on the data. Now let's come back to this original discussion what we made. So what we said? In calculating T, time period T, we said one, clock to queue, you need to take this into consideration. You need to take the propagation delay into consideration. You need to take the setup time for register R2. Means what I mean to say is, what amount of time the data should be available in this flip-flop terminals, this setup time also should be taken into consideration. So this T becomes appended with T setup time of registered R2. That's all. Now the timing is complete. So what I mean to say is T total time period is not just a combo logic alone. It is in addition to C to Q, that plus a setup time. This is not a CT, not Q. Setup time of register R. Or generally in technical term, they call this as launching flip-flop, capturing flip-flop, or launching reg. This is called, R1 is called as launching reg. This is capturing reg, register. Why launching reg? It is the one which transfer this D value to this one. Why capturing? It captures the value which has been computed here and transferred to the output. In that context, it is called as launching and capturing. Yes, so that's it. So any time period T, any time period T is a function of time taken from C to Q, clock to Q, T combo logic plus T setup time of the capturing flip flop. That's all. Now, one more I would like to add a constraint here. When I say time T, all this are max. This is max. This is also max. What is this max? Why you say max? What do you mean by max? Max is maximum. I say from clock to Q,
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Sir, actually, we are unable to see the screen, sir.
ఒక్క నిమిషం మేడం మేడం ఒకసారి హలో మేడం ఆర్ యూ ఆస్కింగ్ మీ సంథింగ్ డాక్టర్ వల్లిశ్రీ మేడం
Oh, no, sir. No, sir. Actually, sir was sharing the screen, and now I'm unable to see the screen. So I was just talking to sir.
I think sir got disconnected, madam.
he got
Oh,
disconnected madam
disconnected.
yeah
Okay, sir. I will call sir and find out, sir.
I mean the lecture is it ongoing or it is not yet over, right?
Oh, yes, sir. It is not at over, sir.
It is not yet over. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry. It's okay.
Sir, I will call him and I will join back, sir. Actually, I'm unable to use that headphones in my system. So I'm leaving and I'll call him and I'll join back, sir.
4 to 5 members Rajesh are there. Only in easy.
Sir is reconnecting. I request all of you to just wait for 2 minutes.
Sorry, I think I got disconnected when I was not knowing that.
Sir, not an issue, sir. Not an issue. Please proceed,
Thank you.
sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I believe I don't know up to what point I was there with connected with you. Um,
Yes, sir, till that previous
Setup.
situation, we were there.
Yes. Yes, right. So what we understand from here is like, yeah, you can make a setup time and rearranging this. What you could understand here is minimum you are expected to have this amount of setup time for that circuit. Anything which is not satisfying this equation, generally people say that my IC has failed because of setup time violations, or any digital ICs. While we try to look in at the tape out, people used to claim that my IC went on with the setup time violation. We need to fix it out, right? The second option is like one more thing. What we call it as a hold time violation. Let's see what is this violation. Again, the idea remains same. Like what you have, like you have a combo logic combinational circuit over here, and you have at both the end two reg, and they have been connected via a common clock, and you have a set of input, and finally you have a set of output, right? Now, what we discussed here is this is like T C to Q maximum, and this is combo logic max, and here you need to have some time well in advance. We said setup time. Now for this flip flop, you also have something called as hold time. That's every flip flop will have setup time and hold time. Hold time. What we said hold time, it is the maximum amount of time that the data need to be available. You can okay. Sorry. Okay. So the whole time is the maximum time the data need to be available after the rise edge of the clock. That's what we call it as a hold time. Now, what do you understand by the hold time violation? Just to make it very simple, let me try to make you understand. See, like the first data came from D to Q, got computed here, and it was available before the setup time. So it got sampled and it got computed, and finally you get it as sum and carry. Okay, that's fine. I said, after this also, let's assume that one set of data coming in and it is waiting for the next clock cycle so that it can be captured here and move on to the output terminal. Before that, the second data comes in. Now, how long this data can be here after the rise edge of the clock? I said, you can wait for some time before the next data get in. Now I need to think at what minimum speed the next data can come in. The next data can come in by T C to Q minimum. If at all, if you're taking the least computation path, it can come like this. This one plus T combo logic minimum, not maximum. Or what I meant to say is, your data can wait here before the next set of data takes a least computation path and coming here to wait for a setup time. So T hold, mathematically you can write like this. T hold should be less than T C to Q minimum plus T combo logic minimum. As I said, one path is having 15, one path is having 12, one path is having 10. And this C to Q also, you can keep it like one is having 5, one is having 4, one is having 3. The minimum time by which it can come is 3 plus 10, 13. So this T hold can be there before the next data comes in by taking the least computation path. That is, like a person can wait in the platform before the next train comes to the station. The same idea here. This is called hold timing. Any violation means if your T hold is greater than this, then at the worst case it can be equal, not greater than this. If your hold time is greater than this, then this leads to a serious holding violation. So basically, your circuit can come across, or your digital circuits can come across two type of violation: setup time violation, another one hold time violation. If you try to look into solving these two, then your overall digital circuit will be free from any timing violation. I believe that's all. In fact, I can speak on even for 2 more hours, but yeah, I will just give a hint, right, for the further scope. Next, how can I increase the speed? So people speak about increasing the speed of the architecture. Two well-known mechanism is, you can think of introducing pipelining, the other one parallel processing. When I say pipelining, you can go for 3-stage, 4-stage, 5-stage pipelining architecture by introducing flip-flops in the critical path, break the critical path into n number of small paths, then the critical path will be reduced by n, thereby T will get reduced by certain amount. If T get reduced, frequency will get increased. So the easy way is pipelining. Through pipelining you can do it. You can take up some architecture, introduce some 3-stage pipelining, and increase the speed by 3 times. The same thing could also be done with parallel processing, but parallel processing, the problem here is you are expected to have the duplication of that many number of architecture, which will definitely go for increasing the area. So this may not be that good idea, but still at some cases where there is a serious demand of high power, high speed, people will go with that also. Then during the timing analysis, you may come across false path, multi-cycle path, all this. The idea behind all those things are right? Like false path is a path will be there in the physical structure of that architecture, but you can be very sure that that path will never get exercised for any set of input, right? So those paths are called as false path. Unfortunately, if this false path happen to be critical path, then it will actually pull down your speed to a great amount. So on the designer side, you need to see whether my system has any false path in my design. If that is there, then you need to rule it out. Then there is one more concept, what you call it as a multi-cycle path. The idea is very simple. In my design, I have, let me assume that there are three modules. One module work with the 50 time period 50 nanosecond. This works with 150 nanosecond. The other one works with only 50 nanosecond. Now the problem is, just because of this 150 nanosecond, right? I am expected to bring these two also to work under the same 150 nanosecond. Instead, what I do, I fix 50 to be the time period and run this block module alone with 3 clock cycle. All the other thing will run at single clock cycle. This block will run at 3 clock cycle. This is what you call it as multi-cycle path. So these are a little bit high and complex designs, which normally an ASIC platform will do. In fact, all sort of ASIC designs which the people try to do for any sort of processor design, the people will go ahead with false path, multi-cycle path. Really, the people who work with multi-cycle path has a very good exposure about the timing analysis and this. Yeah, so within this reasonable restriction of time, I try to give a clear picture. I mean, at the outset, a good picture about the top level view on what is this timing, how we need to do. Still, I haven't taken you the timing analysis via the point of synthesis, right? In fact, that could be done, but that needs still more. Now maybe with this background, if you try to analyze either of FPGA-based synthesis timing analysis or ASIC-based system design timing analysis, now it could help you out in understanding that. So once again, I thank you for providing such a wonderful opportunity to meet you via online. I don't know how many people could follow this and really understood this, but something like, if you are aware of digital network, I believe this could be an eye opener. Though if the whole thing is not clear, at least you will come to know that there are something which need to be worked towards timing, and that's really a serious issue, very equivalent to the power where people focus on with respect to system design, particularly digital system design. Once again, I thank Vallistri madam and the professors and the students who have taken pain in arranging such a wonderful guest lectures via online. And I thank your management for providing me such a good opportunity. And I wish you all the best. Ma'am, I would like to take questions from your students.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you have questions,
Dear
please.
students, yes, sir. If there are any questions, you can unmute and speak up, or you can post in the chat box as well.
Yes.
Any questions, ma'am? Student? I
Sir,
think,
can you explain about the scope of the research in this timing analysis, sir? In what way it will be helping to us,
Yes.
especially to the faculty?
Yeah, ma'am, if you look this timing with respect to research purpose, yeah, you can go ahead with, there are multiple techniques by which you can increase the speed. for any architecture, you can think about incorporating those techniques for the betterment of the speed. Beyond that also, you have an STA analysis, static timing analysis, new techniques which will improvise the speed, increase the throughput of that architecture. Like this, we have multiple other thing also where you can think about focusing towards, but it will be more on the back end side, on the synthesis side, where you can work to increase the algorithmic level or design level speed optimization. And even I have not spoken on EMI issues, clock tree synthesis issues, CTS. So these are actually the backend part of synthesis, which culminate to timing analysis. In fact, there are many people who work on CTS, many people who work on EMI issues, all this. They are actually the byproduct of these timing problems. But it requires a strong tool that I will let you know. You need to have some sort of tool which can help you to synthesize the high-end design like Cadence or Synopsys, which is basically followed in most of the industries.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Any other questions from faculty?
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Myself, Sri Lakshmi from Gitanjali, as a faculty. Thank you, sir, for your session. It's
Thank you.
remarkable. But at the same time, I request Vanisri ma'am also to conduct one more, the extension, as sir told, just he given the basics now. So as an extension of this for our faculty, and those who are working on the digital side. So, sir, we want one more lecture on the in depth, sir. Thereby we can
Oh, sure.
raise of the papers, or else we can see the research side also. And fortunately, we are having the cadence tools also from the long back 2013 onwards. We are having a cadence tools. So definitely we can work on that also, sir.
Good. Then I think we can plan a hands-on. Means I may show it in my tool by which we make a timing analysis. So probably, yeah, that may help you out. So
Sir,
maybe we can.
okay. Vivado also, can we do that on Vivado tools also? Xilinx Vivado?
Yeah, it will be FPGA based synthesis. That's it.
Yes, sir,
So
FPGA
if
based.
you work with the Cadence, that will be an ASIC based synthesis. This is
Yes, sir.
FPGA based synthesis. Yes, we
Yes,
can
sir.
do. No
So
issue.
in our college, we are having the tools like a Vivado also is there, and the Cadence also there. So anything is okay for us if you are if
Yeah,
you can
definitely,
just
madam.
yeah,
Maybe
sir.
this month I will be running one more program. Maybe
Sure,
at the end of April or possibly at the May, sometime we
sure,
can
sir.
start, madam.
Definitely, definitely, sir. Thank
Yeah,
you, sir.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Actually, we are having a center of welcome, ma'am. Center of
Okay.
Excellence VLSA, sir. So we all faculty members, we are part of the team, and our group head is Professor Sivakumar sir, who has joined us initially. So we would like to work with you, sir. And as ma'am has correctly said, actually, like some faculty are looking for research in the area of VLSI. So
Sure.
if you could give us another session, so it would be beneficial for all the faculties, all our VLSA faculties to proceed further, sir. It would be, and this coming to this session, it was a very good session, and we gained good knowledge about the whole time setup time and the timing analysis of digital circuits. So thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation and giving us this guest lecture, sir. And now I request Professor Swakumar sir to speak a few words. With that, we can wind up the session.
Yeah. Absolutely. Uh, Thank you very much, Dr. Shaktivel sir, for your valuable guest lecture to our students and also to our faculty members. It has immense value for all of us because the timing analysis, very few people understand it clearly. So for Center of Excellence in VLSI also, it is a very interesting area, because we have to do synthesis, and after that, before and after, we have to do timing analysis to get very high performance. It is essential. So in the short time, I think you did a very, you made it very simple actually. And we invite you for many more sessions like this to help our students and also our faculty. And I once again thank you for taking out time out of your busy schedule, and helping us with this important technical session. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure meeting you all. Thank you. We will try to meet once more. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much once again, sir. We are very pleased to have you, and we would like to work with you, sir.
Sure,
Thank
madam.
you.
Sure, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.